Good evening, Liberty World. My name is Dan Fishman. I am the Executive Director of People for Liberty, and I'm happy that you were able to join us on our show, A Call for Liberty in Action. We at People for Liberty have been a group that have been involved in trying to make the world free, and none of that happens by us sitting around. None of that happens by us being complacent, by reading, by talking. It takes action to set the world free. And People for Liberty has been doing that. We're dedicated to that. And so to talk about that a little bit, let me bring in other people from the People for Liberty staff. So first of all, our founder, Lauren Postler. Lauren, welcome. Thanks for joining us. A phrase that just like tickles me pink when I get to say it. President Jo Jorgensen.
Oh, hey.
Thanks, Joe, for joining us. And it's now safe to say Vice President of People for Liberty, Holly Ward. Holly, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit, guys, about the name of this event, Liberty in Action. What does that mean to anybody?
Well, Dan, I was going to say, Joe, this was something that attracted me to the Liberty movement from your campaign. So, Joe, these were words that I heard from you often.
Yes, well, a lot of people don't know that when the Libertarian Party was first founded, now you would think Libertarian Party, like Democrat or Republican Party, it was formed to actually run candidates and try to get elected to make changes. But there were actually discussions among the people who founded the party, the early people, saying, you know what, we're not even sure if we should run candidates because our purpose should be to educate people. So basically, the Libertarian Party consisted of philosophers and educators. I don't mean a bunch of school teachers, but a bunch of people trying to educate others in liberty. And they did that for a while. And then, of course, we had a whole business spring up. Now, Reason was already around, but, you know, we got Cato and all these other think tanks out there. So now the Libertarian Party doesn't have to do the research, the education, the philosophy. Now the Libertarian Party can actually be a political party, which means it's up to us, other groups, to bring in others and to spread the message. And the one exciting thing about People for Liberty is it brings it up in a non-threatening way. You know, if you think about it, if you're going to go buy a car and you go to the dealership, you've got some high-pressured salesman and you're in defense mode because you don't want to say yes. You know, you want to hear, but your defenses are up. The same thing is true if you're talking to a candidate, no matter what party, Libertarian, Republican, or Democrat. Your defenses are up because you don't want to make the sale right away without being sure. So People for Liberty is a non-threatening way to just talk about liberty, to expose people to it, to see, well, is this something for me? And as an example, there's a Christian group in People for Liberty who is now talking about, hey, you know what? Being a Christian means that you help those in need. It means you help people who are poor. And so they're talking about, you know, maybe we should get rid of laws that you know, get in the way so that we can do the Christian thing. So the nice thing is it's a platform for people to get together and actually use voluntarism, that to show that we don't need the government to get things done.
Oh, that's a great example of that. And I love the fact that because of something that started with People for Liberty, you have a lot of people who would define themselves as Christian, not necessarily define themselves as libertarian, doing very, very libertarian things. It's, I mean, that's somehow, you know, that magic word of resonance, something about that idea resonates with people. And just like, you know, on a guitar, different notes resonate different strings. Different liberty messages. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I was going to say, can I interrupt? Yeah, some people aren't quite ready to call themselves libertarians, but they can see that what the Democrats and Republicans have been doing does not work, but they're not ready to affix that label, because if you think about it, labels are powerful. If you call yourself whatever label, it means something. So it's a way to test the water safely.
That's a great way to put that. And so, you know, one of the other exciting things about tonight is that I believe that this is the first time that we can say that we are going from the president of People for Liberty to the new Vice President of People for Liberty. So, Holly Ward, welcome, and tell us a little bit about how you got here. And yeah, a little round of applause. Just started it off.
Thank you. I think what drew me here is action. Anyone that's ever met me in the Liberty movement knows that I'm a person of action. I don't like stagnating. And I think everyone has their ideas and their philosophies and their views. And that's what I love about the Liberty movement is everyone has this like really storied history with how liberty impacts them. But the second part is taking that journey of identifying your relationship with liberty and then making something come of it, bringing about legislation, bringing about advocacy for change, to have more liberty-focused laws and policies, identifying what needs to happen and can happen. Not that I think talk is cheap, but I came to People for Liberty because I saw liberty in action here. I saw people actually getting out on the streets, connecting with people, and doing what needed to be done. And it's not always the sexy work, right? It's not sexy to lobby. It's not sexy to try and organize a protest or a walk, but I was so excited to see the action. I knew this is where I had to land.
You know, you raise a great point. Sometimes the behind the scenes work, the pounding the pavement, right? The knocking on doors. It's a lot of stuff that isn't, it's not all glam and red carpets. In fact, I have yet to see a red carpet.
For sure.
Exactly. No. But that's exactly what it's about. So following up on that, I was going to go to you, Lauren, and talk about that thing about it that, you know, now we've sort of assembled this team of actionists, right? Yes. People who are actually doing things. And that was your goal originally when you founded People for Liberty, right?
Absolutely, Dan. And, you know, as I mentioned, one of the things that resonated with me during Joe's campaign last year, and for those who aren't familiar, I was not a libertarian. I was brand new to the movement. I was exploring it for the first time. I'm still not registered as a libertarian because I don't want any labels to limit me to one party or another. I want to vote based on my values, based on my conscience. And I feel very privileged that I have found candidates within the Liberty movement that align with my values. But People for Liberty as an organization was never designed to be another political party. We are a nonpartisan 501c4 nonprofit that was established for the purpose of bringing people together, engaging people, empowering communities in order to affect change at the state, local, and national level. But, you know, I think that Dr. Jo captured it when she mentioned the message. And Dan, I think you said how those messages may resonate differently with people. We can't put out content. We can't put out messages. We can't put out marketing campaigns and advertisements and billboards and all of the, you know, tactics we use to share the message of liberty without making sure we're engaging people around it. And that was how People for Liberty started, as a vehicle to engage people in smaller groups, to create a, you know, opportunity for people to connect more personally, to build trust with each other one-on-one. And we've now grown. I think we have over 18 groups: Women Voters for Liberty, Black Voters for Liberty, LGBT+ Voters for Liberty, all of whom you will hear from tonight when we talk about some of our events. But the concept of creating community, that was what I saw was missing. And when we think about action and how we can empower communities to take action at the state, local, and national level, it has to start with bringing people together so they can trust one another, they can share with one another, and hopefully bring new people to the Liberty movement as they build and grow those communities. So I'm really excited tonight to talk to some of those representatives from our groups, to hear about the events that we have coming up, and to share later, you know, with Holly, some of the opportunities for action that she's spearheading in her new role.
That's a perfect example of that. So we popped up on our page here, Groups for Liberty, and I just want to highlight for people who may not be familiar with our website. You come up to the top level and there's an engage menu, and underneath there, the People for Liberty. And obviously the People for Liberty, that means all of us. And Holly, I think you probably got some interesting things to say about how people become involved in the People for Liberty.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few different ways. The first is the way that you just mentioned there, Dan, where you can come in and join our groups. And this is really a way if you are liberty curious, if you're trying to figure out about the liberty movement and where you might fit in. This is a way to ask safe questions and have topical conversations in subject areas that you probably already know or are familiar with. I know I'm a gun owner, and I am very comfortable talking to people about gun ownership and liberty. But there's other groups like Muslims for Liberty. I'm not Muslim, and I probably couldn't talk to someone about liberty in that group. But the conversations there are fantastic, and the engagements are going up every day. So that's definitely one way to get involved. Another way that I've heard from a lot of people in the liberty movement is, I want to do something. I'm tired of talking. I'm tired of typing on a keyboard. I'm tired of firing something into a server. And so the second way is to volunteer with us. You can actually reach out. You can volunteer. And Dan, if you want to go ahead and show folks how to go follow up with the volunteer form.
Yep. So this is it. Again, from the top menu, engage, choose volunteer. And it looks like a lot of form, but these are all check boxes. I promise you'll be through in 30 seconds.
It's really, we have so many people that want to reach out in so many different ways. And that's what the liberty movement is. I've met so many people in the liberty movement that I had no idea were graphic designers or someone that could do finances inside and out. It blows my mind every day when I meet people in this movement, the different skills they have. And so if you don't want to be in a group, if you're not comfortable being in a social media presence, or if you don't need to have that liberty conversation, maybe you've had it, you're there, and you just want to get to work and see liberty in action, volunteer with us. Sign up and come join the actual action that's happening.
And so, Bonnie put something here about, I don't know how to do physical action because I'm a disabled person. Obviously, we have the Disabled Voters for Liberty group that I would strongly recommend joining. But one of the other things that I think can be very effective is we are doing organized letters to the editor. That's one of the things that if at the same time letters to the editor get published 5 or 6, 50 or 60 papers around the country, and papers are desperate for online content about the same topic, that now becomes a trending issue. So we can control that by working together. Obviously, posting on Facebook doesn't make anything a trending issue, but if a lot of people work together and write letters to the editor on the same topic, I see people want to jump in.
Well, yeah, this is, sorry, Dr. Jo, but I gotta say, this is what we hear from the most. People who send us private messages that say, yeah, this is what happened on Facebook, but what about XYZ? As we start to build out like our event calendar, we've had so many submissions for liberty-based events on our event calendar of people who just want to have a collaborative effort of identifying things and getting people organized. It's resounding the amount of action that's coming, and I'm so excited because there's so much of it. That's really what I'm hoping to bring home is less talk and more action. And that's what we're hearing from people every day that they want more of.
So, Holly, would you care to comment or deny to this that there will be a Holly Ward for President 2024 campaign?
I can confidently say no. On a personal note, for those that are following my journey or anyone that knows me, I'm wrapping up a PhD and finishing a dissertation. Once I finish my coursework is definitely my chief goal, and I'm doing academic research on the Fed and the federal budget and how people aren't represented. So I'd like to finish that work first. And the second for me is I'm big into foundation. I grew up watching Bob Vila's This Old House as a kid. Maybe not the most normal, but I believe in building out foundations and getting coalitions together, bringing people together. I believe in communities. And I don't think that my work doing this is going to be done by 2024. I believe in reaching out to people and finding people in the liberty movement. And I'll probably be doing that 2024, 2025. We'll see. We'll see where it takes me, but I know it won't be for president in 2024.
Well, can I just add really quickly?
Please.
I completely understand working on the dissertation to get your PhD. So some people in the party was wondering where I went to for a few years. Yeah, dissertation.
Yeah, it's Dr. Jo.
Well, that leads us to an interesting thing, though, because there are things that people can do that promote liberty that aren't necessarily direct, but in improving their lives so that their voice will be amplified. And there's also, you can join other organizations that, you get to see have your voice in that organization talking about liberty. And one of the things that People for Liberty is getting ready to roll out as well is a new membership program. Now, it's not ready. This is roll real. We're not going to send anybody any things about it. If you're watching this broadcast, you're one of the looks like about 250 people watching it right now. We'll let you're going to know about it. And so, if you come back and go to the website, let me pop it up here.
And then Dan, I'll share while you're pulling that up to show people. I do want us to come back to this discussion about supporting the liberty movement and how it's different from the party, and Dr. Jo's goal as president of People for Liberty, her goal to grow the movement. So after we take a look at the website, let's get back to Dr. Jo's goal.
Sure. I just want to say people can go to Engage membership. This is the beta membership. So you guys are going to help with people who joined up right now. We're going to have a large influence in what membership in People for Liberty looks like. We appreciate you being in here. So to that point, Dr. Jo, Lauren, I'll let you go. You don't even need to say anything.
I just want to say that we hope you'll consider joining our efforts for action to grow the movement, because as you know, things happen when you have a greater number of people. And with just a few people here or there, it doesn't look like, maybe it's something that people want. But when people look around, and by the way, the old term for it in psychology was social proof. If you see other people doing something, and that's how they use it very effectively in ads. They show people using a particular product and they show how all of their friends are doing it. So if we can show that the number is greater than it is, and by the way, it is. Studies have shown, and there are different research projects, but some of the numbers are that there are probably 40 million libertarians in this country who either don't identify as libertarian or haven't discovered yet that they are libertarians. And so right now, we just have our freedoms taken away every day. They're run roughshod because the people in Washington just think that they're the ones holding all the power. So the only way to show that, no, we don't want that, is for us to get together and show them that, no, we have a lot of people who don't like what's going on.
I think that's that's
Absolutely.
exceptionally well put. So one of the interesting things about this is that, as a movement like this starts to grow, our need for volunteers is real. And so please, that peopleforliberty.org page, click the engage button, volunteer, sign up for the newsletter. If you want to get into the membership beta, we can appreciate that. And we have a bunch of people on who are going to talk about some of the groups and some of the events that are coming up going forward. So Lauren, do you have a guest that you think we should bring on right now who can talk about something?
Yeah, so let's give people an overview of some of the wonderful people we're going to be chatting with tonight. Mentioned we have representatives from our Black Voters for Liberty group, our Women Voters for Liberty group, and our LGBT+ for Liberty group. So tonight we have Aaron Schaeffer with us from the Black Voters for Liberty group. He is also known as Armed Atlas on YouTube. So we're excited to have Aaron join us. Hey, Aaron.
Aaron, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and talk to everybody.
Yeah, Aaron. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You've been an active member of our group, but tell us about you, about your journey through the Liberty movement, your efforts as Armed Atlas, and then we'll talk with Holly about the upcoming event for Juneteenth.
Absolutely. So I actually found People for Liberty when I was trying to find just a little bit of purpose in regards to the platform that I've created called Armed Atlas, which is a conversation, kind of a conversation starter, but it's an interview series that I'm doing called Costly Conversations under that moniker of Armed Atlas. And I talk to different Black individuals who are curious about liberty, curious about being armed, curious about a number of different things. So I found People for Liberty while I was really trying to figure out, like, hey, who would be interested in these conversations, right? So when I actually talked to Andrea, and she said, "Hey, I love what you're doing. You should maybe take a peek at People for Liberty. We have a lot of the same ideals. We have a lot of the same values that you have." And so it was just a matter of time before I decided to, hey, I need to be a part of this. I need to contribute. I need to really be a part of what people like Dr.Jo and Holly and what you guys are doing.
Lauren, you're muted.
Goodness. Okay. Aaron, we would love for you to screen share and show us your YouTube page and talk to us a little bit about your Costly Conversations series. You know, as a content creator, you are one of the voices that we want to help highlight. And we know that there are dozens, let's be frank, hundreds, maybe thousands of content creators, podcasters, live streamers, YouTubers, people who are delivering the message of liberty in their own communities. We are here to amplify your voices. So, Aaron, talk to us about Costly Conversations in your series.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Costly Conversations isn't, to me, it's awesome. Why? You know, just I love it. But folks, can y'all see my screen?
Ooh, not yet. Did you hit share at the bottom? There we go. There we go.
I went ahead and share. I've got to share it from my side. I got you covered, Aaron.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I started it back in February. I actually just had a knee injury, and I had just kind of gotten back into firearms, and I really wanted to continue the conversations and to continue being involved in the 2A firearms community. And I found an interesting subset or group of folks who were extremely passionate about firearms, and that is Black folks in the 2A movement. Now, stereotypically, you don't really see Black folks be represented in the genre of 2A.
Yep.
It's just not stereotypical. However, if you look at some of the big names like Coleon Noir, and then you go down the list, there's a huge jump between the biggest guys like Coleon and then the guys who are doing really great work, like I would say Daniel Accord, and then of course me, I consider myself entry level, and yet, but last year we had 5 million new gun owners in the United States, approximately, and I believe 40 to 60% of those individuals were Black or African American. So we have this huge influx of people who need content, who need information, who need something to hold on to say like, hey, this is mine. This is a representation that I'm seeing. These are values that I can lean into and understand. People make a lot of assumptions about African Americans and African American voters and firearms owners and what Black people should do and what Black people should believe. And frankly, as I've been having these conversations, I found that most of the people that I talk to who are serious don't lean into a particular political party. They don't. When I say, so what are your politics? They say, well, I don't agree with the Democrats. I don't agree with the Republicans. I feel like the two heads on the same snake, two birds of a feather. And, I feel that way. And I'm sure a lot of y'all feel that way as well. In the sense that those folks, and I don't want to demonize anybody, but those parties, the old guard, have been gatekeeping for so long and kind of telling Black individuals what to think and how we should believe and the politics that we should follow, even if the politics don't really match with the cultural, with our culture and our traditions that we've held on to. A lot of Black folks are very conservative, but you won't hear about that. You'll hear, oh, they're very Democrat. It's not necessarily the case.
Aaron, I was going to say, I think part of why we wanted to include your voice in the upcoming Juneteenth event that Holly's been working really hard to organize and spearhead was that you bring a new voice to this, narrative of who are the new gun owners in America. Holly, talk to us about the Juneteenth event.
Yeah, and I want to highlight that, everyone that's involved with Juneteenth, and Aaron, you're involved with that event as well. I think my favorite part, Aaron, you mentioned stereotypes a couple times, and the work that we're doing in People for Liberty and the volunteers that are coming out because we're reaching across, I'll say, metaphorical aisles, and we're not looking for party-specific echo chambers. We're looking for liberty conversations. It is tearing down those stereotypes, and it is making the conversations easier and less tough. And so that's huge. Anytime that you lead any kind of conversation in the liberty movement, and Aaron, you're doing a great job of that, it breaks down the stereotypes. But for Juneteenth, it's another great event. I'm really excited for our lineup that we have. We've got Larry Sharpe that's going to be headlining. And, we're talking about, are we really free? And I think anyone in the liberty movement would argue, no, we're not. But we're having really serious, focused conversations. And they're conversations that are coming out of grassroots communities. They're coming out of our own backyards. One of the speakers I'm really excited about is Jeremy. He's coming out of Massachusetts, and he works in an area called Methadone Mile. He's going to be talking a lot about like drug policies and how the actual policies and laws that the government is still enforcing is really what's keeping an active freedom and maintaining some of these terrible stereotypes. So I'm really excited about the broadcast. Obviously, it's on the 19th of June. Thank you for throwing it up there. But I'll be honest, I'm excited about Juneteenth. But Dr. Jo, what are you talking about in Juneteenth? I'm super excited for this.
I'm not even sure. I just got back from Florida after going to Colorado and Chicago. So I guess I'll leave it a surprise.
I'm going to jump in. I have one of my favorite guests is Aaron Lewis, Dr. Aaron Lewis. Yeah. So for people who don't know, Dr. Lewis ran for mayor in Hartford, actually a former Democrat, and he left the Democratic Party because he felt like they were just playing lip service to the issues of inner Hartford. And so he found the Libertarian Party as a home, and he found the advocacy that he had been looking for. He's also, an ordained minister, as well as, just a tremendous activist. So people who haven't seen Dr. Aaron Lewis speak, I would strongly advise tuning into the Juneteenth broadcast. Also on the broadcast is going to be John Mons from Georgia, and Larry Sharpe. Larry Sharpe will be talking about his libertarian reparations plan, which is, I don't want to give away too much, but it's fantastic.
So good.
Yeah, that's going to be exceptional. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. You and I are getting together later on tonight.
Thanks, Aaron. And everyone, if you're interested in catching up with Aaron, you can join him for the conversations in our Black Voters for Liberty group or our 2A Supporters for Liberty group. 2A stands for Second Amendment. We can't put that out because the algorithm will shut us down, but 2A stands for Second Amendment.
Yep, and somebody will share in the conversation. I know the banner is a link that's a little hard to follow, but somebody will share the link to Costly Conversations for Aaron's YouTube channel in the discussions. So that'll be coming up very soon. Another event that we have coming up, Lauren, I'll let you, what's our next event that we're talking about?
Well, let's see, has Chase joined us yet? Because the next event
is here.
I was going to say Chase Oliver.
Have on camera.
Can I just
hey,
say,
buddy.
Chase is hands down one of my favorite Liberty in Action people. When I feel sluggish and I'm like, man, who's doing something? It's always Chase's name that shows up.
I got to say, we had Chase on LPTV. I don't know, what was it, 6-8 months ago? Blew me away. The guy brought the fire. It was unbelievable. So
both of you have checks in the mail for that lovely introduction.
Well, where's my check? Because I'd like to say you did amazing stuff for
There you go.
Well, thank you guys for having me on, and I'm very, very happy to talk about the Pride event that People for Liberty will be doing. But first, if anybody doesn't know me, my name is Chase Oliver. I am the chair of the Libertarian Party of Atlanta, and I'm also a member of the Outright Libertarians Board. Outright is a nonprofit that is devoted to building bridges between the gender and sexual minority community and the libertarian movement, the Liberty Party. So I enjoy talking about LGBTQ issues an awful lot. In fact, what brought me to the Liberty movement was very much LGBTQ issues, because I was a politically homeless person in 2010. I had given up on being a Democrat because they didn't ever do what they were going to say they were going to do. And I was walking around Pride in Atlanta. And you mentioned John Mons a bit earlier there, Dan, about the Juneteenth event. Well, luckily for me, John Mons and the Libertarian Party of Georgia was there at Pride. John was running for governor at the time. And it was through those conversations and those initial introductions that made me into a libertarian. And I became I was proud to cast my first vote for president as a libertarian in 2012. And I got to do that in 2016. I was very proud to do it in 2020 for you, Dr. Jorgensen. And I think what brought me to People for Liberty was the campaign. The Jorgensen campaign really brought a breath of fresh air. It brought some new life and new membership into the party and into the Liberty movement. And so I'm very happy to kind of help facilitate communications between People for Liberty and the gender and sexual minority, or as we call it, the LGBTQ community.
That's
well,
really
I was going to say, Chase, I'm sure that this is not the only, volunteer project, opportunities for service that you were working on. You were always working on a half a dozen items, that really bring liberty into action.
Well,
so we'll talk about Pride, but tell us about some of the, initiatives you're leading.
So LP Atlanta, we just did a GoFundMe. We raised almost $3,000, and that project was to help raise funds for the homeless population in Atlanta. So about $2,000 of that, roughly thereabouts, is going to go towards creating 100 care kits for the homeless population in Atlanta, which we will distribute out to folks in need. And then the remainder will be going towards a group called Lost and Found Youth Atlanta. They are an organization that is devoted to helping rescue homeless LGBT young people from the streets. They're an awesome organization. I first found out about them because their founder, way back in the day, was doing a fundraiser himself where he spent 72 hours living on the streets of Atlanta because statistically speaking, it takes 72 hours before a young person either has to commit a theft or some sort of crime or sell their body in order to survive on the streets. And so they provide housing, addiction services, job placement, all kinds of mental health services for those who are impacted by homelessness in the LGBTQ community. So I think it's a very worthy cause, and I was very happy that people really got behind raising funds for this. It's going to make an actual difference, and this is part of the message of direct aid and mutual aid in our communities that the Libertarian Party of Atlanta stands behind.
And can I say, it just shows you don't have to have government to get stuff done. And you know that your overhead is a fraction, a tiny fraction of what the government's would be. The government would spend more on administration than they would on the actual help.
Mm-hmm. And,
absolutely.
And it allows us to pair with other organizations who are helping the homeless in Atlanta. So we're building those coalitions. It's not just the Libertarian Party of Atlanta, but it's other NGOs and nonprofits that are jumping in to fill the need that government just does not serve, especially in the city of Atlanta. If you ever come to our city, you're going to see some wonderful people, some great culture, an amazing city and an atmosphere, but you're also going to see people who are really down in their luck and who need not a hand out, but a hand up and a chance to get back on the horse, so to speak, and really get going again in life. And we're hoping that we can maybe provide just a little comfort with these care kits while folks kind of figure it out and work their way through restarting their lives.
And I love the fact that you're saying that it's alliances, because that's the thing about it, is that forging alliances, it's one of the reasons that our group is People for Liberty. If you're a person who wants to see liberty increased in any manner, we want to work with you at some point in time. And, Chase is one of those guys that we've always seen doing a lot of work across the board. We're very excited for the Pride event that you're going to be on. We're excited for a continued relationship and seeing you grow freedom.
Well, I'm very excited to be commemorating Pride with you guys for People for Liberty, because Pride is something that at its core. So if people are not familiar who are watching right now, Pride commemorates the Stonewall riots, which happened 52 years ago on June 28th. And that was in New York City. Back in the day, you were basically blacklisted from society if you were out as a homosexual. And so people were pushed away out of mainstream society and into these small dingy bars that were mafia owned with watered down drinks. And that was basically where people felt like that was their lot in life, until the police decided to come in and raid the bars and try to even take that away from the gay and lesbian community and the trans community in New York. And so they stood up and they said, no more. We are not going to allow government to control our lives. We are free people and we are going to express ourselves and be who we are. And we're not taking it anymore. And it started off a 3-day riot, which we now commemorate with Pride every year. And so I tell people all the time, Pride at its core is a libertarian celebration. It is a libertarian commemoration of people, free people standing up to an authoritarian government police force and saying, no, we're not moving, you move. We're the people who are free and you're not going to control us anymore. So I think when we commemorate Pride, it is exactly what libertarians need to be doing. It is exactly what people who strive for liberty and for people to be free. Pride is something we should all celebrate because it is nothing less than an absolute celebration of human liberty.
So mad props for the Captain
Anyone
America
else have
quote.
goosebumps? Chase, I just, the passion in the liberty message is so much. I get excited just hearing you talk.
Yeah,
Well,
it's one of those things that absolutely, this is, anytime it's easy for people in the liberty movement to get depressed, to say, oh, you know, I feel like we've been working and nothing's changed. But if you ask anybody in the LGBT, in the GSM community, they'll tell you, no, things have changed. Ask people who were in the civil rights movement. Things have changed. The light is getting brighter, or if I can quote Dr. King, the arc of justice is long, but it trends towards freedom. That's where we want to be. And we have examples of that. And that's Pride is an example of the fact that, you know, and I mean, as I'm sure you're going to hit on as well, it's not over. We can't be complacent. But
there's lots of work to do, but I can speak to that point. And I started the Gay Straight Alliance in my high school many years ago when I was a high school student, and I got the pleasure of a couple of years ago going to speak to the same group that I started at that point. It was 16 years earlier.
Wow.
And I got to say, you know, I want all of you kids here just to raise your hand if your favorite piece of media, your favorite television show or YouTube show or anything has an LGBTQ character represented. All of them raised their hand. I said, when I was your age, I had Dawson's Creek, My So-Called Life, and Queer as Folk. That was it. That was all I had. And so things have definitely moved. And now we're seeing, and what we're seeing now is as gay and lesbian Americans and bisexual Americans are gaining their rights, there's a whole segment of the LGBTQ community who is really under attack right now from big government. And that is our trans community. In Tennessee right now, starting July 1st, if you own a business that allows trans people to use the restroom of their choice, you now have to put a sign up that says, we let people use the restroom of their choice. And it's mandated by government that you have to put that up. Or there's these bills that are forcing kids to, or forcing parents to basically become criminals if they want to care for their children and provide them the medical care that a doctor, a mental health professional, and parents have consented for their child to receive. So we need to now shift our gears from just saying, you know what, it's not just about marriage anymore. It's not just about service in the military. It's about being able to live as free individuals, free from government intervention in our lives, especially when it comes to things like medical care and for parenting to our LGBTQ young people. Parents should not be constrained by government with how to raise their children. So long as they're not neglecting or harming that child, they should be allowed to parent as they see fit. And that means allowing parents to meet with doctors, to consult and make the best decisions for their children. And government should never, ever be getting in the way of that. And we're seeing that in state houses all over the country. So while we're celebrating Pride, you're right. We have to make sure that the work is not yet done. And we have many more fights left to fight against big government in this country for gender and sexual minorities.
I love that you mentioned legislation and opportunities for action, because that's part of, you know, the opportunities for action People for Liberty is seeking to offer our community. You know, it's not just about, you know, the political party itself. It's how are we taking it to our communities, local, state, and national level. Dan, if you're able to show the legislation page, Chase, some of the first legislation that people started submitting through our website portal was on GSM issues. And I'll clarify for people, that's gender, sexual minority issues. So this was some of the first legislation that came through, legislation attacking the trans community. Yeah. So we are collecting this information. We hope to have an update that we can share during the Pride event, which will be on June 30th. So for everyone who is tracking and hopes to tune in during the Pride event with Chase and some of our additional friends from Outright, stay tuned June 30th. And I'll say, Dr. Jo, we just got back from Florida. The outright libertarian group was so supportive of your campaign. The LGBT and GSM community was so supportive of your campaign. Is there a message you'd like to share with them for Pride or to say thank you?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. And it just shows how we can get along without government putting laws up there. And you know, if you don't mind, I was relaying one of my first experiences in the Libertarian Party. And so this is more about the party than PFL, but we do, you know, we do work together. So the first national convention I ever went to was in 1991. And I remember telling my friends, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe this place. I said there would be a guy in a 3-piece business suit sitting next to a guy with flip-flops and cutoffs. And everybody just got along. And keep in mind, this was 91, right? So the guy in the 3-piece business suit, you know, fine with him if the guy in flip-flops smoked pot, and the guy who was in the flip-flops, fine with him if the businessman got to hire who he wanted to hire and at whatever rate. And it was just a group of people who respected, you know, we're talking about dignity and respect. And the way to do that is to live your life how you want to without hurting others, but then to give that same dignity to others to live their lives. And government just makes it worse. Government always makes it more divisive. Government will always find a way to make it worse, and government will find a way to pit people against each other. But left to our own devices, we get along great.
We get along.
And I got goosebumps just thinking back to my first national convention about people who were very accepting of others. It didn't matter what they looked like, how they dressed, who they went to bed with. It was just live and let live.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and Dr. Jo, I think that speaks to the home we hope to create within the liberty movement that is bigger than any party. It crosses all of those boundaries. So Chase, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again on June 30th. And let's talk to some other people in the liberty movement. Bye, Chase. Including Casey Daly and Martha Bueno. Martha is from our partners at Libertarios Estaños. Casey Daly, most of you may know from her leadership of the Let Her Speak movement, which was a grassroots movement, which had nothing to do with the party. We said, we're going to get stuff done. We aren't waiting on government. We aren't waiting on the party. We're doing it ourselves. Right, Casey?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Do you mind if I interrupt first? And Casey, I just want to tell you what a compliment I've been getting. I was at the Kentucky State Convention, and I got a question that I've gotten many times. Somebody, raised their hand in the audience and said, gosh, I love your whole Let Her Speak campaign. It seemed to be a little separate, though, from the rest of your campaign. And I said, that's because it wasn't us at all. And people in the room were like, what? And I said, yes, this is grassroots put on, and I gave you guys credit. And I said, this is what we can do at the grassroots movement. So it just shows that, not only do you not need government, you don't even need political parties. So
exactly.
So Casey, you did such a great job. People thought that we were doing it.
And let me just bang that one thing. You don't need political parties. You do need people. So peopleforliberty.org/volunteer. I said, plug that in. Go ahead, Lauren. It's up to you. You got it again.
Sure. So Casey and then Martha, we'd love for you guys to introduce yourselves a little to our audience in case they're getting to know you for the first time. And then let's talk about this upcoming event and Libertarios Estaños and how, together we're hoping to make a positive change by taking action together. So Casey, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself? Clearly they just heard about Let Her Speak, but we'll go to you and then Martha.
Okay. Hi. In case you don't know me, I helped spearhead Let Her Speak, and of course, all the different people that were involved with that. I think there was almost 2,000 people, and there was convoys in every single state, and all at the same day and the same time, and just a lot of really amazing people who were really passionate about the idea and just jumped on board, and it was a lot of fun. And so, I could have done it without People for Liberty, and I'm just so excited to see People for Liberty growing in this direction, and all the different cool things that are coming up. to work with them. So
Yeah.
if you are very tired of all of the drama, I would definitely recommend going and working with People for Liberty. So,
well, thank you for the plug, Casey. And speaking of, one of the groups of people that said we want to get shit done, I'd say, Martha Bueno, let's take it to you, because you are getting stuff done, my friend, in Miami-Dade, in Florida, and really, y'all are global with Libertarios Españoles.
That's kind of true. So for those who don't know me, I am Martha Bueno, and myself and my really good friend, Zach Foster, we started Libertarios Hispanos because it actually goes back to Joe's campaign, to Dr. Jorgensen's campaign. We noticed that there just wasn't enough people talking in the Hispanic community about liberty, about the options they have. So they would hear about Trump and Biden and back and forth, but they didn't hear this liberty, this concept that there's other options. And those options are the things that we Hispanics are interested in. Most of us come to this country just seeking an opportunity. We don't want handouts. We just want the opportunity to improve our lives. And the Libertarian Party has the best policies. The Liberty Movement has the best policies for us to come to this country and be able to work. And also our focus was then to look at the reasons why people want to come to this country and help educate them in their own countries as to changes that they could make to improve their circumstances, which is why we founded Libertarios Hispanos. And we have been a little bit global. We've worked now with Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, even Italy. I mean, I think liberty is something that is worldwide, and having an organization that reaches out across not only the language barrier, but countries was very important to us.
Well, and Martha, one of the things that I loved that I think Zach was eloquent about sharing in a past video that y'all did for us in English, thank you, was that for the Hispanic community, so many of your family members are first or second generation. So they are still very closely tied to their families in Mexico, in Spain, in Venezuela, in Latin America and South America. So when we talk about, global connections, it's not that we are advocating for the American government to get involved with those countries. Let's be very clear. We are not. But
Right.
we are advocating for families to share ideas across borders, for family members, friends who are still connected throughout those countries. And one of the things that we all discussed was that those opportunities for Hispanic Americans and those seeking to come to our country are under attack. Casey, who was so passionate about starting the Let Her Speak campaign, said, can't we do something similar to help those who are seeking legal paths to immigration, who want to change their lives? And Martha and Casey, I'd love for you both to tell us from your personal perspective, how do you feel about the attack on liberty that we're seeing at the border today?
You want to go first, Martha?
No, okay. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I didn't want to worry about. Well, this has been, very upsetting for years now. But whenever Trump signed the executive order for, to basically force everybody that was coming across to go into these detention centers, everybody was appalled and upset, and many people voted for Biden with the hopes that he would change it. But right now the government is housing more than 19,000 unaccompanied youth in facilities. They are in makeshift shelters. But one in particular that Reason magazine just came out with, there was over 4,500 kids are being held in Fort Bliss. And that site includes tents, which was only supposed to have 900 children, but there are 4,500 children in that facility. They are filthy. They don't have basic necessities. They don't have underwear. 98% of the federal workers that work there say it's appalling. And then recently, Biden administration just came out and said it's planning to expand that facility to have 10,000 children there, including 5,000 tender age minors under the age of 12. And Government Abbott just came out and said that now he wants to do the wall. He said, I can't take care of the Fort Bliss. We can't take care of these children. That's a federal problem, but we can find the funds to build the wall.
I live in Texas with Casey, y'all. So Casey and I are both, pretty upset. Yes, yes.
But there are so many organizations that just go unheard. There are so many, like I've found 30 so far of organizations that are doing grassroots. Their thought leaders and organizations are helping migrant families to get the resources they need to get reunited with their children, get integrated into society. So we're going to do an event that's going to show the Liberty Movement, a few of the existing organizations that are doing the good work on the ground floor to help the migrants and how we can help them. They're already there. They're already doing the work. We just need to know, I think everybody needs to know how we can help people who are already doing the work.
Exactly.
So that's what the next event is about.
And that speaks to collaboration and partnerships, which is one of the reasons that we brought on Martha and Zach with Libertarios Estaños. Martha, y'all just recently did a video on the hypocrisy in the Biden administration, and specifically highlighting Vice President Harris and the hypocrisy there. So Martha, in your mind, when you think about liberty at the border and the injustice that we're seeing, what comes up for you? You're in Florida, Zach is in California, Casey and I are in Texas. We're at the border. We see this daily.
We do see it daily. I see it here in Florida, as you said, in Texas, in California. It's happening, but the biggest issue here is that we are focused on which president caused this, which president is the one that is doing these things, and it's really all of them. Those cages were built by Obama, and then the program was expanded under President Trump, and then now it's being expanded even further under Biden. And what we're seeing is the problem is never fixed; it's never even addressed. They're just putting up now, money that could be going to maybe fixing the problem or giving better housing to, just whatever that would actually solve the problem isn't being done. We're just thinking about, hey, let's put up a wall and spend more money on something that isn't going to fix a problem. And it's really sad. And I think that it's something that people have to hear it from us, and see us in action to be able to join us and take that action themselves and call out the hypocrisy. When Kamala Harris was running for president, she did say that she believed in immigration, and she actually, in that clip that we showed in our video, she talked about wanting to extend citizenship for dreamers and their parents, offering them a path to citizenship. But of course, now that she's vice president, she's in Guatemala telling people, don't come. And she also doesn't have time to go to the border herself. The hypocrisy is there. And, we need to highlight that and tell people what's really going on and how we can solve it ourselves. We don't need government to come and solve this problem. We need to have the people that are interested in it highlight the problem for others that might not know about it, and educate people and see what we can do to help.
Absolutely. Now, Casey, we are still, in the planning stages. So for people who are interested in how they can take action with Libertarios Estaños and with Casey through Liberty on the Border, Casey, you mentioned that you really want to highlight the work of the organizations that are already, active and working in the trenches. This will be on July 10th, correct?
Yep. Yeah, it's a Saturday. It's in the afternoon. We're still working with the different organizations to see who can speak, but we have a list compiled. So regardless of who's actually able to speak, we'll have that list so people can have that resource available to them whenever you sign up for the event on the website. That way we can send you it via email. We'll have that event up for you. It's going to take a couple days, but it'll be ready for people to sign up soon.
I love it. So, Martha, tell people where they can find y'all and Libertarios Estaños and your schedule, because you do a regular series, right?
We do once a week in Spanish at People for Liberty. You can find us on the People for Liberty at Facebook page. And you can also find us on the Libertarios Hispanos page on Facebook as well. And I just want to say, having Casey, I met her during the Let Her Speak event, and Casey was absolutely the person who came up with that and just really made it work and made it an event so big that people took notice, and I can't wait to see what Casey can come up with for the Hispanic movement, for, you know, helping people at the border. I'm super excited for this, and I can't wait to join. And I invite anyone to come join us at People for Liberty, because we really are doing the work that I feel needs to get done. It's not.
Yeah, and may I add, Martha, you're saying you can't wait to see what Casey has done or will do. I'd like to tell everybody what a joy and what a wonderful person Martha was on our campaign as well. I mean, she just stepped up, and I got to admit, there were a few times when my campaign didn't get back to her in time. And so Jim with the Florida party said, Martha, just go ahead and do it. And she did it. So and that's the kind of people we need. People who don't wait for approval or for permission to do something. Sometimes you just have to go out and do it. And that's what Martha did. And I really appreciate it.
Liberty in action.
Yeah, it definitely is. Everybody on this team, that's what we do. We just do it. And I think that that's what's needed.
I love it. Well, Martha and Casey, we're excited to learn more about the Liberty on the Border as the event develops. We will keep everyone posted. But ladies, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We can't wait to stay in touch and see how we can all support this effort.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. See ya.
Good night.
Okay, so Holly, Dan, and Dr. Jo, we just heard about some phenomenal activities and, you know, events that are coming up. Everyone's interested in how they can get involved. So I think it'd be a great opportunity to recap and show people where they can go on the website for volunteering and events. And Dr. Jo, again, this was something you were so passionate about. And when we thought about People for Liberty as an umbrella organization that can help grow the liberty movement organically through grassroots efforts, I don't know about you, but I am so excited to see how far we have come in almost a year. Almost a year. We launched last May. Let Her Speak was the first major grassroots campaign, again, spearheaded by Casey. But Dr. Jo, now that you're seeing all of this in action and you're sitting as president of the board, what are your thoughts?
Well, let me first of all not take credit for a year. It's only been a few months. But it was such an easy decision to come on board with, as I said, the Let Her Speak campaign, which people mistook for our campaign because it was nationwide. It was in every state. And so I could see, okay, here are people who get stuff done. And then, of course, with Dan being former executive director of the Libertarian Party, I mean, what a better team to come on board. It's not just people who talk about doing stuff, it's about people who get stuff done. And that's both you, Dan, and Lauren, which is why I was so glad to get on board. And also, Holly, I know you're brand new. I welcome you to Vice President. It's so exciting to have you as that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Dr. Jo.
Well, Dan, let's show people that events calendar, which we are so excited about. And I want to give Dan all the kudos here. He and our employee of the millennium, Matt, worked tirelessly on this. Matt Hudson. If you all know Matt Hudson, he's a rock star.
Yep. And so just again, from the main page, let's give a huge shout out to Holly as well, who did a tremendous amount of event aggregation. But also, really drove a lot of the things that make this look good. There was a point in time at which it looked okay, and okay wasn't good enough for Holly. She said, not for People of Liberty, not on my watch. Let's make it look good.
But also a huge thank you to everyone else for, I guess I'll say, putting up with me. I'm a really rubber hits the road kind of gal, and sometimes I'm a little rough around the edges, but I like liberty to look good.
Yeah,
I think we're a sexy group in the liberty movement, and I think we need to look the
Holly, as former Air Force and former Space Force, we anticipated you would put us to work. So thank you for making sure it got done.
So let me go through this. If you come to the main page, you mouse over, you get to events, you'll get this pop-up about the upcoming events. So you can see we've got June 15th, Juneteenth Freedom Festival, our Juneteenth broadcast, Atlanta Pride Run in June 20th. It's just me. I think that's a really hot time to do a run in Atlanta. But also down here below, register your event. If you know of a Liberty event that's happening around the country, please tell us about it, because we want to feature it. We think that we are already the definitive calendar of Liberty events happening around the country. You just look here and see what we have this week. St. Pete's Pride Fest. St. Pete's, shout out to you guys. They have Pride events every day in the month of June. Very impressive. Capital Pride Cocktail Party. Pride Online is going on right now.
Dan,
yes?
Sorry, Dan, I want to highlight that we really have taken a couple of different leaps here. And the first is, engaging with people. But the second is the empowerment component and empowering people in the Liberty movement to showcase and share their Liberty movement, passions, and events and ideas. And going from the engagement to the empowerment, I think that's really what's helped make this calendar popular. And then the more people that are at these events, that's how we affect change.
Right.
The engagement of this is just one component, but the more we can empower people to join and add and include their own events, the more change is going to happen.
Yep. And just to, go through here, Pride Paddle on Lake Ivanhoe, you can click through to every event. There's a link in here. So I go to the Facebook event, all the things in here, everything you need to know, every event. And we're going to keep going with this. We've got, I don't know how many, about a couple hundred events in here now, but
Dan,
that's not enough. We want every event.
And I was going to say, Dan, I think that this was a critical missing piece of the puzzle when we looked at the landscape of organizations in the Liberty movement. We didn't see anyone who was aggregating events for the entire movement. Right. Many showcased their own events, but they didn't showcase others. And so this was important for us to help amplify the message and the movement, across partnerships and collaborations, opening it up to invite people to submit their own events. We didn't see anyone else doing that, did we?
Nope. And here's an example of this. The Freedom Festival Barbecue Cook-Off, Northern Indiana. I don't know whether it's a Pride event or not. It doesn't seem to be. It's a barbecue event. I'm very interested in already. And it says
about freedom.
So, exactly. That's exactly where we want to be with these sorts of things. So that's one of the big things that we're doing right now. We have, without question, accumulated the largest calendar of Liberty events anywhere online.
And back to being a group of action, right? So all of us, I think, in private meetings, we talked about why doesn't this exist? And not for a second did anybody hesitate when we said, well, then let's do it. Let's go. And I am so thankful and so happy that every single person on the screen and off that's part of our team behind the scenes, man, we rolled up our sleeves and got to work. And
so speaking about that event aggregation, we want it to be bigger. In order to do that, we need volunteers. And so following the link from the top, engage, volunteer, come in here and help us with this. One of the things that's on here says things I'd like to be involved in. Let me blow this page up a little bit so people can see it bigger.
And Dan, I was going to say, Holly has been working so hard with Andrea Lee, who is our community lead, who serves as really the mama bear for all of our groups. Andrea, shout out being our mama bear. But Holly, who's come on now as the vice president, has been spearheading this. Holly, talk to us about these opportunities for volunteering across the groups and at the community level.
Absolutely. So I heard two comments a lot when people engage with us in any of our groups and the overall community. The first is, well, I'm not really good at XYZ, but I do know ABC. And so things like, I'm not good at social media, but I do know graphic design. Or I'm not really good at talking, but I know how to plan an event, or I know how to manage finances. And there's a home for everybody, right? We have development here. We have website, we have production for our podcasts and coalition partnerships. So there's a place for everybody. And then the second is, how do I get involved? And getting involved, the first part, we talked about our groups in the beginning. But once we get to that engagement, we want to empower people to be involved. And so signing up to be a volunteer, we can reach out to folks and bring you in. Anyone that has a talent or a skill, there's a home for you in the Liberty movement. There's a home for you in People for Liberty. Absolutely, that there's a home for everybody. And so going in and finding all of the information in our volunteer page, and you can make a comment. You can say other, and you can say, I'm not sure. I just want to help. And if it really gets down to it, anyone can stuff an envelope. We'll take anybody, but we want to uplift and engage and empower anybody as well. So if you have a liberty message, and if you have a liberty motivation and drive, and you're in the liberty movement, come volunteer with it. I've never been happier in the liberty movement than being right here.
Well, and I'll share that, working outside of the party for me was critical because I'm not a party person. All right. I am not a parliamentarian. I am not Robert's Rule of Orders, as everyone would test, but I am a get shit done kind of person. And I wanted to work with other people that were action oriented. For me, that meant Dr.Jo, that meant Dan, that meant Holly. And in all of our groups, I mentioned Andrea, you all heard from Martha, Casey, Aaron, Chase. If you want to work with other people who want to take action, we hope that People for Liberty is the home you've been seeking in the movement.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the thing about it, is that, it's a very deliberate choice of words. It's people for liberty. And so if you define yourself in that thing, and it doesn't necessarily mean every single issue is your cup of tea. There are going to be some people for whom they say, I'm not sure where I am on this part of it, but I do know that I think cannabis should be legal. I do know that I think qualified immunity should go away. I do know that I think people should have the right to start a business without having to register it with the government. These very simple things of a liberty lifestyle, that's what we're all about.
And putting people before the politics.
Exactly.
People in groups, people in community, and meeting people as individuals on their liberty journey, not in a political force or movement, but people before the politics.
Yep.
So this is just going to be one in a series of events where we talk about volunteering. So go register on the website if you want to learn more. I'm going to do a live stream where I walk people through our strategic plan. And I hear that a lot. People say, well, what's your plan? What's your strategy? And everyone has an opinion. So if you want to share your opinion and give us your feedback, sign up to volunteer. We will follow up and offer the opportunity for you to share your feedback. Sign up to be a beta tester for our membership platform. Dr.Jo, we're excited that you're going to be contributing some content to that membership platform. You're pursuing happiness course that you teach at Clemson. We hope we'll be able to offer through the membership platform. And we've talked to other thought leaders in the liberty movement about sharing their knowledge and their voice through the membership platform. But everyone, as we look to wrap up, this was a lot. What is everyone the most excited about? So Holly, Dan, Dr.Jo, as we look ahead to growing the movement together, what are you the most excited about?
Definitely liberty in action. All of our people and talking and ideas. I am loving that it's starting to translate to reaching to individuals and communities and getting off social media and outside into the real world. I'm so excited about that.
I'm excited about a lot of the really good quality that's been created recently. If people haven't seen it yet, Holly wrote a very good blog post that went up today. You go to the main page and you see the blog link and go through there. And then a critical thing under that too is that, we have a newsletter that goes out. And so if you read something that you like on our webpage, say, hey, let me get the newsletter. Let me find out about the other things, because, who can check a web page every single day, but the newsletter will keep you up to date with all the good stuff that's happening in the liberty movement.
So maybe I'm not quite as spiritual as you guys, maybe a little too competitive. What excites me are the numbers. I just want to show the Democrats and Republicans, hey, your time is coming. We're coming after you.
On that note, I will say thank you, Dr.Jo. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Holly. Let's get those numbers up, people. Engage with us. Thank you.
Yep. And all our guests, don't forget, people.org/volunteer. Sign up right now. We're excited to see you. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.